Alright, motherfucks. It's Thursday morning, so you know what that means. That means it's time for our AEW review up in this piece. Alright? This episode was actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Now, of course, as usual, it had its usual negatives, its ups and downs, if you will. But I will say, personally, I thought that overall, this was a pretty good episode. You know? So with that being said, let's get to the bread and butter of all this really quickly and start at the top. So one thing that AEW has been doing really well recently, in my opinion, is that they have done a good job in starting the show off, right? Starting the show off on a high note, you know? That's good because that might keep the viewers engaged, or at the very least, it'll make it so the viewers tune in when the show starts, which is smart because once you've tuned in, you may be enticed to keep watching, right? But if you know that next week's main event is the only thing you want to watch, you might tune in at 9:30. You know what I mean? So this was very smart, I thought. And also AEW, I will say it like it is, AEW does a good job of promoting itself on a week-to-week basis, right? Like AEW always tells you, I've mentioned this before, they always tell you what they're going to do next week, what there is to look forward to next week. You know what I mean? Which is pretty good because then you're like, oh, okay, shit, like every week there's something to look forward to. Even if you don't like AEW, like I don't particularly give a shit about AEW, but there is always something to look forward to. You know, I gotta give props where props are due, you know? And they're doing a good job in kind of making every episode have something there, you know? WWE doesn't do that, especially the last few months, you know? Like, there was that time period where every week it was like Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. You know, like, who wants to see this again? And again, and again, and again. Or like Mustafa Ali or any other guy from Retribution versus Ricochet. Who wants to see this? Like, it's boring, you know? But here in AEW, every week there's something happening where you're like, either the match is interesting, like last week it was a 10-man elimination match. This week it was the debut of Malachi Black as well as Juventud Guerrera, right? These are things that even if you don't give a shit, you want to see how it's handled. You want to see, like, how Juvi's doing, right? You want to see how Malachi is going to be presented for the first time. These are things that are interesting. So kudos to AEW. We don't give props to AEW on this channel very much because the point of this channel, at least when it started, was that AEW sucks ass. Because AEW did suck ass. But we in this channel, we tell the truth, motherfuckers. We tell the truth. We don't hide behind like this idea of not changing our minds, right? I'll tell you this. I went back to my home country, like I said a couple episodes ago. I went back to my home country, and what did I find? A lot of things have changed. I hadn't been back in 10 years because of work and school and shit like that, right? It's been a while, you know? Plus, my parents and other people come to visit here, so it's been a while. And I went home, and a lot of things have changed, you know? But the mentality of a lot of people in my country hadn't changed yet, right? Like, they still think of it as like this backwards place, as this third world dump, and it's not at all anymore. Now it is on par with every other European country, in my opinion, right? But people don't really accept this new evidence. But here on the Hater Channel, we do accept this new evidence, right? And we have to give credit where credit's due. The fact that AEW hasn't gone out of business and they keep doing things, they keep improving in some marginal ways here and there, not overall, but it's impressive what they've done. To become this big of a company this quickly is impressive. I don't care what people say. They're about to have their other show, which is like that Rampage or whatever. I think that's supposed to be like their SmackDown, you know? Like AEW Dark is like their Sunday Night Heat. But this is supposed to be their like big show, you know? Like their other big show. TNA was around and has been around for so long and they've only had one big show. It took so long for TNA to even get a 2-hour deal, you know? And as soon as they did, Raw was like, all right, we're going to do a 3-hour show now, motherfuckers. Yeah? So you're going to give props are due, man. AEW is doing good work. Their roster is bloated. It's inflated. There's too many people. But if they do like a brand split, that would be amazing. And think about that. They would actually do a brand split, right? Not like a bullshit WWE one where people come and go as they please. Like a real brand split. You know? And then maybe that's how Cody Rhodes becomes like the world champion. He becomes like the other world champion in the other, you know, show. Because that's how they do it. Who knows? That's probably going to be down the line at some point, but it seems to be heading that way because their roster is growing pretty large now, you know? So without any further ado, let's get to the show, right? The show starts, it's the 5 labors of Jericho, which for what it is, has been amazing. Let's be honest, right? It's like every week you know that you're going to see Jericho in a match that he's going to win. So that right there is awesome because Jericho rules. And every week, it's something interesting. You know what I mean? And this is all going to lead to him versus MJF. And the question here is, after Jericho invariably wins the first 4 labors, will he or will he not finally beat, MJF, right? Now, the thing about MJF is that even if MJF is worse than Jericho and he wins, the argument is Jericho was destroyed for 4 weeks straight while MJF didn't have any matches, right? So that's why Jericho lost. So they have the built-in excuse right there. I hope Jericho wins personally, obviously, but I could see him losing, right? And this is compelling. This makes for a compelling match. MJF sucks, but the match is compelling as a result of the booking around it, right? Now, as I just said, we all know Jericho's going to beat Juventud Guerrera. But this match was interesting because of the top rope move stipulation. At first, I thought it was Jericho just has to hit a top rope move. I'm like, okay, he does that all the time. I know he has to win with a top rope move, which is a preposterous stipulation, right? Nonetheless, the match, they kept talking about how Juventud is fast, but Juventud is 42 years old. And Juventud was never like Rey Mysterio, you know what I'm saying? Like, Juventud was good. I always liked Juventud. But Juventud was never Rey Mysterio. He was athletic, of course, for his time especially. Like, he was doing things that people weren't doing, for sure. But right next to him was Rey Mysterio, who was doing incredible things that no one was doing. So Juventud kind of gets swept under the rug. He's like on the level of super crazy, a legend in his own right, but nobody really gives a fuck. Now, Jericho eventually, after a few botches, there's a few botches that were happening, right? A few miscommunications. Understandable, considering Juventud is new to the company, right? But it did detract from the match. Jericho hits the Judas Effect, climbs up, and hits a top rope Judas Effect, which honestly really kind of shows that the Judas Effect is like a shitty move, because Jericho used to do this move for free, right? Back in the day. But anyways, he hits the Judas Effect from the top rope and pins Juventud 1, 2, 3. He gets attacked. He and Juventud, actually, both get attacked by Wardlow, right? Wardlow hits the F10 on Juventud, and then he hits the whatever, like the other move that he does on the thing where it's basically like he just drops the guy and knees him. He picks him up, but in this case, Jericho's on the turnbuckle. He drops him and knees him in the head. It has some pretty clever name, actually. I personally think it should be called the War Crime, because he's Wardlow, the War Dog. War Crime, that'd be a good name. But it is what it is. MJF decides that the next person, so the 4th labor of Jericho, will be Wardlow. Now, this to me is a step down, because one of the things that I was looking forward to was to see who the 4th labor was going to be. Now you're seeing people like Nick Gage, who I don't know who the fuck that guy is, right? And then Juventud, who's like, oh shit, that's kind of cool. Maybe it would have been, I don't know, like Perry Saturn, right? I don't know. It could have been anybody, but it would have been interesting to see someone else with like a cool stipulation, Now, it's going to be Wardlow. I mean, who cares? It doesn't really matter. It was entertaining. The segment was entertaining, and there was a part where MJF was talking shit to the crowd, and behind him were like these 4 or 5 like super wrestling fans. These guys were like the most stereotypical wrestling fans ever. They were flipping him off. They were booing him. Even though they were like these new age wrestling fans, which are weird, you can tell that there's something weird about them, right? The image of fans booing him was good. It was a good decision, you know what I mean? Especially in the context of COVID possibly creeping up again on our bitch asses, right? Next up, we have Dasha Gonzalez. And I will say on that, let me just say this real fast. On the COVID front, AEW has done way, way, way better than WWE. The Thunderdome sucks ass, right? It's much better to not have the Thunderdome and to even have 3 fans, right? And AEW innovated by putting their wrestlers as fans. This was smart, motherfucks. This was smart. People can say whatever the fuck they want. AEW has been doing well recently, and it's hard to admit for haters like myself, but the truth is the truth, and we don't lie around here, motherfucks. Anyways, back to the show. Dasha Gonzalez is backstage with the Lucha Cucks and Alex Abrahantes, right? This was cool. Basically, the storyline here is Chavo Guerrero and Andrade El Idolo. I guess Vicky Guerrero's gone. It's just Chavo now. They're here trying to recruit Rey Fenix and Pentagon. It's gonna obviously happen. I think everybody knows. They're a much better fit as heels with Andrade than they are with Pac, who's from England. You know what I mean? The logical thing to do here is at like the next big event, you have Andrade versus Pac, and then they interfere. They cost Pac the match. Pac turns face. They turn heel, right? I mean, I guess Pac, you could argue, is kind of a face now. He's more like a tween, you know? And then eventually Pac gets his push, right? Because he deserves a push. It's been interrupted by the pandemic. It is what it is. The best part about this was when Phoenix tells him, like, no, we're not going to be with you. And then Pentagon says a bunch of shit in Spanish, right? He says like 4 or 5 sentences. And Alex Abrahantes, which, by the way, is killing it in this role. Just the fact that he's dressed like he's like this hip guy is funny as fuck. He's a suit-wearing jabron, right? He gets the mic and he says, Penta says no. And then they just bounce, right? Which was cool. Then we have Tony Schiavone talking to Dark Order. Nobody cares. Hangman pretty much says, I don't need you guys. We're done. We're no longer like a group. Which he had the same reaction several months ago, but it was what it was. We have a trios match. Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley, and Darby Allin versus a guy named Daniel Garcia and 2.0. I believe 2.0 is Everrise from NXT. I could be wrong, though. But basically, it was presented like these guys were kind of like a big deal. Like they were going to be a big deal, right? Then later, I find out that Daniel Garcia lost to like Joey Janela on AEW Dark. And if they had told me that before, I wouldn't have cared at all. Obviously, I knew that Eddie Kingston, Moxley, and Darby Allin were like 99.9% going to win. But I didn't know who Daniel Garcia and 2.0 were. I wasn't sure. So maybe like Daniel Garcia and 2.0 were going to be pushed as this like next big group, you know? So there was always that possibility. But, you know, when you have Jon Moxley and Darby Allin in the same match, the probability is that they're going to win. You know what I mean? Especially with Sting being there. So long story short, they fucking, even though Daniel Garcia 2.0 have a pretty good showing, Moxley hits the paradigm shift, Darby Allin hits the cuck drop, and that's the end of that, motherfucks. Yeah. The Elite cut a pretty good promo, considering what they are. They're doing these basketball tricks, and they're pretty much saying, like, we're the best in the business, right? Which they have a claim to this now, just because they have so many titles. You know what I mean? Like, Kenny Omega has, like, 9 world titles, and then they have 2 tag team titles, and, like, the Young Bucks are correct in saying that they've beaten everybody there is to beat. So, that's pretty cool for the Elite. Now, Kenny Omega was wearing a shirt that said Cookie Monster, which was stupid, but whatever. It is what it is. Nonetheless, we have Christian Cage versus The Blade. Now, The Blade is a jobber. Nobody cares. Christian Cage, obviously, motherfucks, obviously is going to win, right? I mean, who the fuck thought that The Blade was going to win? Christian hits a spear and pins The Blade, and that's the end of that. This somehow makes Christian Cage the number 1 contender that he should have been this whole time. Whatever. He's not going to win, obviously. Like, I thought that Adam Page and Dark Order were going to win the elimination match, and then that Adam Page was going to lose to Kenny Omega. But whatever, same shit. They pretty much just skipped that part, and they had him lose the elimination match. Same idea, right? This will make Adam Page's journey much more arduous, but he will eventually become the champ. Tony Schiavone was in the ring with Britt Baker, which just seems to be an every week thing. Britt Baker just literally comes out like she sucks now, you know? She was cool for a while, but now she just comes out and basically says, I'm Britt Baker, DMD. That's all she says. She says nothing else. You know, in her promo, she might be like, you suck and I'm better than you. She might have a sentence more or two. But basically, her entire promo structure is she comes out and says, I'm the best, I'm Britt Baker, DMD. I'm the best, I'm Britt Baker, DMD. This isn't good anymore, all right? Things need to change. So I thought that this segment was fucking shit, personally, right? Fucking Red Velvet, out of all people, comes out. And once again, the rankings mean absolutely fucking nothing because Red Velvet comes out and becomes more or less the number 1 contender. I don't care what happens. I don't care who wins the match. None of these things matter. All that matters is that Red Velvet is going to just come out there, talk her way into being number 1. Red Velvet in the rankings here is ranked number 3 after Thunder Rosa and Tay Conti. Probably Thunder Rosa is going to be like, you know, like a big match for Britt Baker since they had that match that nobody really liked, but everyone pretended was the best ever. Right? Britt Baker in this year is 12-1. Thunder Rosa is 21-2, motherfucks. 21-2. Tay Conti is 31-6 in this company. Her record is way better than Britt Baker's. She should be the champion by this logic, you know, but it is what it is. I got nothing to say about that. You already know how I feel about the records. So Red Velvet's going to jump the line, obviously. Who cares, right? Chavo Guerrero tells Andrade that he got Fuego del Sol, who's some jobber. He got him to be like Andrade's like bitch boy, basically. He tells Fuego del Sol to shine the shoes. Fuego del Sol says no. Andrade beats his ass. No one cared. Waste of time segment. You already had Andrade on TV once. Why do you have him take even 2 seconds away again? Put him in a match instead, cuckolds. Anyways, Dan Lambert is going to be here next week because Lance Archer whooped his ass. The problem is Dan Lambert today is going to bring backup. If it's not going to be Lashley, I'm not interested, right? Nobody cares. There's nobody in American Top Team, right, that is famous in any capacity that can beat up Lance Archer. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, Amanda Nunes is undefeated in like 20 years. I don't care. Lance Archer would beat her with one arm. Oh, Jorge Masvidal. Lance Archer would kill Jorge Masvidal in 2 seconds, motherfuckers. Believe differently, you're a moron. It's as simple as that. Jorge Masvidal is like this overrated UFC fighter, for those that don't know. I'm in the know. Lance Archer would take Jorge Masvidal by the throat and would slam him on the ground 19 times. There is a big size differential between Lance Archer and anyone in American Top Team that I can think of off the top of my head. You know? Now, if Dan Lambert brings like, I don't know, a heavyweight prospect, right? I can't think of anybody right now. I'm sure there's some people that I'm completely missing, right? Junior Dos Santos, I think he's with them. Like, if he brings like a Junior Dos Santos, obviously Junior Dos Santos would beat the shit out of Lance Archer. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't be this blowout. It'd be close, you know? But that's who's he going to bring. He might bring like, I think he also has like Rosenstrike and that Olenek guy. But these guys aren't going to come there. And honestly, quite honestly, a lot of these guys, I mean, they're big, strong guys. But let's be real. Lashley is the real star of American Top Team. They should put that in his profile, you know, in WWE. But neither here nor there. The rest of them, honestly, I really do believe that Lance Archer would have a good shot beating their ass. Like, I really do. Like, Lance Archer is enormous, motherfuckers. So, they also apparently, I just Googled it, they also have Andrei Arlovsky, who's a UFC legend, if you ask me. But, nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. The point is, nobody really gives a fuck. He's probably going to bring some Jabron. He's probably going to bring Masvidal. You know what I'm saying? So, that's why I'm saying this. Now, with that being said, I look forward to it. Dan Lambert is good on the mic, so he's going to be fun. Then Tony Schiavone is going to interview Adam Page. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? This segment was one of my favorite segments of the night, but I don't know why Adam Page is being interviewed. Why is he being interviewed? He lost. You know, there's nothing interesting about Adam Page after he lost the match. So I don't know why he gets an interview. One problem with AEW that's a big problem is the fact that a lot of people in AEW just get time for no reason. They don't say anything. It's the same thing with Britt Baker D&D. As what's happening with Adam Page. They just come out every week and have an interview and they don't say anything. You know? But at least this interview was good because it was interrupted by the Elite. Right? And Adam Page wants to have a moment with Matt and Nick. It's not going to happen. Kenny Omega pretty much makes fun of him, says, oh, you want to come back to the Elite? You're not good enough. The Elite, you know, pretty much is a bunch of winners and you're a loser. So Hangman slaps him. He gets his ass whooped. Right? But he gets his ass whooped big time. Right? They hit the Magic Killer. Gallows and Anderson hit the Magic Killer on his ass. By the way, Anderson's contribution to the Magic Killer is like zero, right? Like, the Magic Killer is basically Goldust's finishing move. It makes no difference. And actually, Goldust's finishing move is probably way harder to do, obviously way harder to do, and it hurts a lot more because Goldust's finisher, he lifts the guy and then the guy's falling, right? From a higher distance. But like Gallows does all the work. Anderson, he doesn't even twist into it and fall to the ground like he used to. Or like La Resistance did back in the day when they invented the move. As far as I know, La Resistance did it first. But I think it was called the Bonne Nuit. Oh no, the Au revoir. That was the Au revoir, right? So the Au revoir for my Canadian French motherfuckers. But anyways, so then Nick and Matt hit like the BT trigger like 5,000 times. And then Frank Kazarian comes out for no reason, gets his ass whooped, right? Dark Order comes out, but Evil Uno and Stu Grayson basically say, like, no, like, stay back. We're not with him anymore. Like, you know, just to do what Hangman wanted, right? Nonetheless, the beatdown was like an old school classic beatdown. It was pretty fun. Next, we had a complete waste of time. It was Leon Ruff, or AEW's Leon Ruff, Lee Johnson, versus Miro, who is now called the Redeemer. I don't know why. I get it. He's a Christian. Whatever. Who gives a fuck? Miro obviously wins. Who gave a shit about this? He put the game over on him. He went from a video game gimmick to like a devout Christian gimmick. Who cares? Tony Schiavone does yet another interview with a Christian Cage, who basically says, I'm elite. That's all you need to know from that interview. Then we have a number one contenders match for the NWA Women's World Championship. Who the fuck cares, right? It was the Bunny versus legit Layla Hirsch. Legit Layla Hirsch, who will never happen as a start, does a moonsault that completely misses. You know, there's only one explanation here. She doesn't know how to do the moonsault. Because if this was like a miss on purpose, like for kayfabe, it's just stupid. It's like, why would someone do this? You know what I'm saying? If someone can time it, like, well, like 9 times out of 10, they're not going to miss. You know? This looked too good to be like a miss by accident. So it's either she's really, really, really bad, or this was a shitty spot. Nonetheless, legit Layla Hirsch, I believe, wins by submission. The Bunny is a waste of time. So it's going to be her versus Camille, who is the women's champion in NWA, apparently. Who cares? Camille comes out. Nobody gives a damn. Camille's going to win, obviously, right? Now it was time for our main event, motherfucks. It was the American Nightmare Cucky Rhodes versus Malachi Black. All right? Now, Malachi Black, I got to give props where props are due. Malachi Black looked the part. He had gained some muscle. He had lost some flab. He looked better in AEW than he did in WWE. And that right there is a positive, motherfucks. Obviously, like everyone knew, Malachi Black won this match. But as I've predicted several thousand times, this means fucking nothing, right? This is the same thing that happened to Brody Lee. Brody Lee beat Cody Rhodes pretty decisively to win the TNT Championship, right? Then Cody Rhodes came back after keeping some other shit and then beat him. Beat him 1, 2, 3 pretty decisively as well. That's exactly what's going to happen here, motherfucks. Malachi Black retired Cody, right? Even in a debut match of someone like Malachi Black, who obviously they're going to try to push before he becomes a tag team wrestler, they're going to try to push him, right? Even someone like him has to be hijacked by Cucky Rhodes. This match, even though Cody Rhodes got beaten pretty clean and pretty decisively, this somehow became about Cody Rhodes once again. Everything is about this cocksucker. He even said it on his own. He said it. He's like, my face has been all over this company. It's time for me to like bounce, basically, right? And bounce, he was going to do. Bounce, he was going to do, motherfucks. Of course, I knew that this was a fake retirement. Cody Rhodes is not retiring. Cody Rhodes is going to be like a 10-time AEW champion. Cody Rhodes is going to go back to WWE at some point as like a 42-year-old, like a Jeff Jarrett type role, right? Like, these things are going to happen. Cody Rhodes is going to be around for a long fucking time, motherfucks. Cody Rhodes is not retiring at like 35. That's ridiculous. He's like entering his prime. You know, he's not gonna retire. So basically, Malachi Black came and beat his ass again, right? They just pretty much sped up the whole process. You know, it's better this way, right? But I could see this happening in a different way. Malachi Black keeps taunting him every week. He keeps saying like, "Hey Cody, come on Cody, come on Cody. Oh, I made you quit, Cody." And then Cody comes back out of retirement and beats him, right? Same shit. Cody's gonna come out of retirement just a little bit quicker. So this was all about Cody. This wasn't about Malachi Black. Everything that involves Cody is about Cody. Nothing about Cody is about anybody else. Luke Harper or Brody Lee beating Cody was about Cody. It was just to set up Cody's return. Same thing with this. This is the same thing. Cucky Rhodes is going to come out on top of this feud. Guaranteed, motherfuckers. Guaranteed. And that's what happened this week on AEW Dark. You know, it was pretty good. Some of the parts of the Elite were good. The first match I thought was good, but this shit was boring. The Cucky Rhodes stuff was crap. The match with Aleister Black was crap. Pretty much the match was Aleister Black hits the kick and wins. So there you go, motherfucker. That's all I gotta say about that, bitch.